My name is Alex Keyter. I am the founder of Generative Minds, and today I'm going to be talking a little about assistive intelligence and how we can use some of the tools and technologies available to us to assist us in our day-to-day lives. What we're doing now, what information we have access to, and how we engage in conversations about supporting each other as a collective. For a little bit of backstory, I'm going to not double click. For a little backstory, I set up Generative Minds about 2 years ago on the premise that AI and technology can be used to maximize the amount of good that brilliant people in the world are trying to bring about. That led me to connecting with the Brain Charity, supporting their team to understand what generative AI might mean for them, and has enabled me to work with some brilliant organizations across the Liverpool City region and now broadening into the north, talking to them about what AI means and how it works and how we can start using it. Today's talk is really focusing on 4 use cases of AI, initially thinking about how we can use that for one of the first uses that I used for generative AI, which is to frame difficult conversations that maybe we don't know how to have, maybe we don't know what to say or what the right thing to say is. I'm then going to be talking about how we can immediately access some sort of emotional support for challenges so that we can reflect and then come back to the people around us and ask for support and ask for resources. I'll touch on finding information using generative AI and equally getting an understanding of research that's being done in different domains and different fields so that you can apply your own understanding and make a difference or your own contribution to the field. But what do I actually mean by AI? Right? We've heard this term a lot in the media, in the news. AI is everywhere. AI is coming for your future. China's making AI. We need to win the AI race. We're hearing a lot of these things, but what does it actually mean? And by and large, when we're talking about artificial intelligence, we're talking about computer systems that make predictions based on data that they've seen on the past. So if I have a computer vision model, so a computer that sees images, and I have lots of images of dogs, and I label them all as dogs, there are some patterns in that image that correspond to the dog. And so if I have lots of those examples, I can train a model to make a prediction of when I show it a new image, if it has a dog in it, it can predict the label dog, right? But what's been really exciting for the last 3 years has been the emergence of generative AI into the ecosystem. And by generative AI, we mean computer systems that can generate digital media based on past data. And so if I, keeping with the theme of dogs, because who doesn't love our furry friends, if I was to go to a generative AI tool like ChatGPT or Gemini and say, give me a blog post about dogs, it's able to make a prediction of what that digital media might look like, how it might be written. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the most accurate or the most correct, but it does give us a scaffold or a framework for what they could most likely be based on the examples that it's seen in the past. But like all of us, based on things that we've seen in the past, we still make mistakes. And so, although we can use it to generate media the same way that I can generate a piece of media, I still need to have that checked or put in the context of who the actual audience that's going to receive it is. Now, what kind of things can generative AI do? It turns out quite a lot. And we're seeing examples of generative AI being used in businesses for helping them to create content and marketing, for using it to plan out campaigns or even manage their finances. But we also see uses in education for people for people doing research, for people trying to scaffold out an essay or a report, not just to cheat. We see use cases in charities where people are using these tools to help them write grant applications, which enable them to do the vital work that support the community they serve. And we also see people using it personally for reflection, for understanding themselves and things about the world, and even for learning how to better manage their finances, how to navigate in a complicated digital environment of today. But what does any of this have to do with neurological conditions? Is a relatively fair question. And how can we actually leverage these tools to make a difference in our own lives and the lives of people who are affected by conditions? So I'm going to touch here on some potential use cases. And the first of those use cases hits home because it's the first use case that I had for what was Bard at the time, which is an AI tool from Google. And I used it to frame a difficult conversation. So at the end of 2022, I was late diagnosed ADHD. I was in a job that I was really struggling with. And well, actually, that's why I sought out a diagnosis, because I didn't know how to navigate that in the workplace. And then when I got my diagnosis, they go, oh, here's a label that you now have. Go have fun with that. And it's not always clear how you're going to communicate that with the people around you, how you're going to ask for support, how you're going to get any kind of structure about a new label or a new condition that may have always been with you, but you never knew how to navigate in the past. Well, I can go to the tool and I can get a rough framework, an idea of how I might approach that in a more emotionally intelligent way. I still need to have the conversation and I still need to go and do the supporting. But as a first port of call, sorry about that, it gives me a framework to be a more supportive colleague. It still resides on me to make the judgment and still relies on me to have the understanding of who I'm speaking to, how they're feeling, but at least I've got a framework that I can work from. Sometimes we have difficult emotions when we're navigating diagnosis, when we're navigating our conditions, when we are just trying to get through our day-to-day, and there's not always people there who we can go and ask for first-line support about how to navigate something. And even if there are people around, they might not necessarily have capacity. So sometimes, if my partner has had a really busy day at work, and I come home and I'm a bit stressed and a bit upset about something, well, I need some way of communicating to my partner about how I'm feeling. But if I just go in and express how I'm feeling in the moment, well, actually that can be quite heavy and maybe she's not resourced, equipped to manage it at that time. But with the emotional load in front of me, I can go to a tool and actually ask for a framework for how to navigate difficult feelings or even navigate opportunities or challenges of the future. So in this example, this time it's using Claude. We talk about, okay, someone's just been diagnosed with Parkinson's. What does that mean for the future? And how can I prepare for that? Right? It's a difficult conversation and maybe people in your family or your friends don't quite know how to navigate it. But if you can get a first line resource or idea of how it might affect you in the future, and then you can ask follow-up questions of, how's that going to affect my hobbies and my interests? For you to be able to get a basic framework, a basic understanding of what that might mean can be really helpful as a resource. Those are all quite personal and essentially communication-based tasks. But the last resource that I want to sort of touch on here is looking more towards AI-enabled research and information gathering. Not all of us have expertise in every domain, and using a tool, traditional search tool like Google, can be quite slow for trying to find resources and find the right information to answer our questions. But we also have tools now which combine AI with search engines so that we're able to do research just by asking. So this tool is called Perplexity, and here I've asked what are the most common neurological conditions in the UK, and it's able to find resources from the internet and give me some basic information, give me an outline of the topic. Once I read through, seen the information it's given me, I can actually go check out the sources where it's taken that information from on the internet. And I can click through, and here I see that one of them's from the Brain Charity. And so I can actually step in, okay, well, what is a neurological condition? Where have you drawn that information from? And so I'm still able to go through and verify the sources, but it gives me a very quick framework for understanding the field at large, and then being able to apply my own critical thinking and my own judgment based on the information I'm presented. And that's largely what we do with any form of media we consume. If you read a newspaper, if you watch something on TV, they're presenting information to you through digital media. And it's still your individual responsibility, role, to evaluate the information, see if it's something credible, see if it aligns with what you're trying to do, and then apply it how you best see fit. But a tool like this can help you to navigate a field. And in that example, we looked at essentially doing that from one shot. So I have one question, and I want to get a general understanding of a simple query. But that doesn't always work when we're looking at something more complicated or more complex. And over the last 6 months, a lot of these tools have released what is called deep research features, where they're able to combine the search engine element with a reasoning element so that you're able to research onto a topic. Here we go to complexity, we set it into deep research, and we ask it to find the latest research on the causes of stroke, the ways that we can prevent stroke, the support that we can give to post-stroke patients, and the ways that we can adjust our lifestyle to prevent future recursions of stroke. It's quite a lot of complex information query that would involve you reading through multiple websites, multiple research papers. But what the tool does is it makes a research plan, and it then starts to conduct this research on your behalf. So it goes out and reads here different resources about stroke mechanisms and the way that they're caused, reads through those, and then decides, okay, well, my original research goal was X. How do I progress towards that based on the information I've just seen? And it works through some more research, the same way that an undergraduate student might in university. And eventually, it starts to draft up and then write out a little report, which you can then consume as a first pass understanding overview of the field. You're still going to need to reach out to experts. You're still going to want to have dialogues with your colleagues, with other people who can validate the research that you find. But as a framework for getting a first pass overview of a field, it enables you to access that research in a way that was previously unimaginable. These tools, and especially in the field of generative AI, democratize access to information. Anyone can use these tools to try and navigate new horizons, new situations, or just to try and understand themselves a little better as part of their reflective and learning practice. But access to information is not the same as mastery of information. I have access to information about how my accounts should run, and I can use Excel, but that does not make me an accountant. And even though I may have access to these tools, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm the master of the field, but at least I can use these resources to navigate circumstances and challenges more effectively.